Stanley, a toy designer at D&F Studios, is suddenly labeled an outsider by his colleagues. Feeling isolated after his award-winning creation, he decides to quit. But just as he steps away, a call from the boss changes everything, setting the stage for a surprising twist that shakes the company. What's really going on at D&F Studios? Edgar, let's talk with just the employees. I don't want outsiders to hear this. 8 people, including me, attended the regular meeting of the Planning and Development Department. 7 people looked at me simultaneously. In other words, I was the outsider, not an employee. I'd endured numerous mistreatments and tried my best, but it was getting ridiculous. If the current Planning and Development Department members were all people who find me annoying, it was a tough situation. Okay. From here on, please continue among the employees. I walked out into the hallway. Other department employees looked back curiously, but I left the office without caring. I made one last work call and then went home. The answering machine on the landline was blinking red, and there were nearly 100 missed calls from Edgar, the manager. When I called back, Edgar's frantic voice answered. My name is Stanley Cox. I'm 32 years old and work at a toy company called D&F Studios. I belong to the Planning and Development Department, where we continuously develop toys that are as attractive as existing ones. You might think it's childish for a grown man to be making toys. It's true that I was a bit different from typical boys growing up. I preferred making plastic models indoors to running around outside. Also, my older sister had dress-up dolls, and she sometimes invited me to play with them. My father liked to modify motorcycles, and my mother enjoyed quilting. Growing up in such a family, I loved making things. I studied sculpture in the art department at the university, and immediately after graduation, I joined the toy company D&F Studios. Soon after joining, I was fortunate to be assigned to my desired Planning and Development Department, where I am now. D&F Studios is one of the leading toy companies in America. The areas of expertise are dolls and figurines. The dolls are designed not just for children, but to appeal to the aesthetic sense of adults as well. When I joined the company, D&F Studios was highly interested in toys for adults. The idea was that toys aren't just for kids. They can also provide relaxation and joy for adults. By aiming to appeal to adults, we could handle more expensive products, unlike those meant for children. In this trend, I created a doll close to a robot using AI called Marcy, and recently won the Special Toy Award. This award is given to toys recognized worldwide for their excellence, with judging held once a year. There were many competitors, and when I was told I made it to the finals, I thought that was enough. But surprisingly, many judges recognized it, and I was able to win the Grand Prix. In D&F Studios, other planning and development employees also aimed for the award. Receiving the Special Toy Award made my salary skyrocket, making me stand out significantly in the Planning and Development Department. A grand award ceremony was held, and I stood in the center of the stage, receiving the trophy. It was the brightest day of my life. However, as a result, I became isolated, ignored, and harassed by other planning and development members. They acted as if I didn't exist, and my opinions were not considered. I had no choice but to work alone. Every day, I felt that if this loneliness was the price, I shouldn't have won the award at all. The manager of the Planning and Development Department I belonged to was Edgar Lee, a 45-year-old graduate from a prestigious university. He was recognized in the company as quite the idea man. At 35, he married a woman who worked in the accounting department, and he was a father of 1. In college, he studied mechanical engineering. Believing that robots would become toys and integrate into households, he joined D&F Studios. He quickly climbed the ranks and has been the manager of the Planning and Development Department for the past 2 years. He was very dedicated to his work and handled daily overtime with ease. However, when the manager stayed late, it was hard for us, his subordinates, to say we wanted to leave early. In the end, we also had to work overtime, which led to accumulated fatigue. In that sense, he couldn't be considered a well-liked boss. However, some tried to curry favor with Edgar for their benefit. The planning and development department consisted of 8 people in total, but apart from me, everyone else got along well and worked harmoniously. Yet, when I tried to join the conversation, they scattered like spiders, and no one was left around. But the person who created this atmosphere was Edgar. To gain his favor, one had to act according to his wishes. Besides Edgar and me, the planning and development department had 6 members. One of them, named Mark Bell, tried to ingratiate himself with Edgar and viewed me as a rival in every possible way. The other 5 seemed to spend their days watching the reactions of Edgar and Mark. Mark was an elite graduate of a prestigious national university where he studied robotics. His skills got him assigned to the planning and development department, but he didn't seem to have much passion for toys. Immediately after joining, Mark wanted to achieve results quickly, and he aimed to submit a toy he developed for the Special Toy Award. However, since I had already won the Grand Prix in the robot toy category, his specialty, his work was treated as a second-rate version of mine, deeply wounding his pride. That's why he took every opportunity to twist my words and mock me along with Edgar. With the obedient follower Mark in tow, Edgar's attitude towards me became increasingly worse. The other 5 members of the department, while looking apologetically at me, pretended not to notice the harassment from Mark and Edgar. I started to feel increasingly depressed about going to work, and I began to deeply question if this situation was acceptable. Around that time, the executive director of D&F Studios was greatly impressed after visiting an exhibition by Megan Barnes, a doll artist. The dolls made by Megan, known as Barnes dolls, were traded at high prices. The executive director decided to collaborate with Megan Barnes to create affordable Barnes dolls accessible to everyone. Thus, our planning and development department sprang into action. During a regular meeting about Barnes dolls, I and the other 5 were waiting in the usual development department room when Edgar and Mark entered, chatting and laughing. Edgar, with a cheerful smile, said, "Sorry to keep you waiting," and took his seat. Mark, with an equally eerie smile, sat down right next to Edgar. Following their lead, the rest of us took our seats and prepared to start the meeting. Then, Mark glanced at me, turned to Edgar, and made a shocking statement. "Edgar, let's talk with just the employees. I don't want outsiders to hear this." At Mark's words, all 6 of them looked at me simultaneously. At first, I didn't understand what he meant, but gradually, I began to grasp the situation. In other words, the outsider was me, and I was no longer considered an employee. Although I hadn't intended to quit, it was true that I had felt a limit with this company, and I had recently been researching small toy companies elsewhere. Maybe they thought my actions were part of a job search. But I never imagined that such behavior would lead to being treated as no longer an employee. I had endured numerous mistreatments and tried my best, but now everything seemed ridiculous. Even if Edgar and Mark were leading, the other 5 didn't try to defend me. In other words, I was unnecessary to this company. Okay. From here on, please continue among the employees. I walked out into the hallway. Employees from other departments looked back curiously, but I left the office without caring. I decided to mail my resignation letter the next day. Surely, it would be accepted without any issues. I looked up at the high sky, lost in thought for a while, then remembered someone I had to contact. I took out my phone and made a call, leaving a voicemail informing them that I had quit D&F Studios. Feeling refreshed, I relaxed at a nearby cafe, enjoyed an indie movie, and returned home late at night. The answering machine on the landline was blinking red, and there were nearly 100 missed calls from Edgar. When I called back, Edgar's frantic voice answered. "What did you tell Ms. Barnes?" She just called and said, She wants to cancel the collaboration with us. I didn't tell Megan Barnes any bad things about the other employees. The reason the doll artist Barnes joined our project in the first place was out of gratitude to me. So who exactly is Megan Barnes? Barnes is a famous doll artist, creating porcelain dolls known as bisque dolls as one-of-a-kind pieces. Their sizes vary, but a doll about 25 inches tall can fetch close to $10,000, and they sell out immediately upon release. Her age is unknown, and she has a unique aura, which has garnered her immense popularity, especially among young women. Owning a Barnes doll is a status symbol for doll enthusiasts. Because the dolls are expensive, only a limited number of people can actually buy them. Ordinary fans content themselves with looking at photo books of her dolls, as that's the reality. The photo books of Barnes dolls, with a sacred beauty akin to Buddhism, keep getting reprinted even in the publishing downturn. It was I who persuaded Barnes, who only made bisque dolls, to agree to make dolls out of soft vinyl. It was also I who handed the executive director the ticket to Barnes's exhibition, and I was the one in the center of subsequent negotiations. I met Barnes 10 years ago, when Barnes dolls were not selling at all. Impressed by the world of Barnes at an exhibition I visited by chance, I decided to feature Barnes dolls in my graduation thesis. In the process of writing the thesis, I contacted Barnes multiple times, and we grew close. The finished thesis became somewhat of a topic within the university. The professor in charge, who found my thesis interesting, introduced Barnes dolls in various magazines, leading to their explosive popularity and the current situation. Given our 10-year relationship, and the fact that I'm considered a benefactor of Barnes dolls, Barnes agreed to any request I made. So, it was only natural that Barnes decided to withdraw from the project after learning that I was forced to resign. I abruptly ended my call with Edgar and hung up, ignoring all subsequent calls. The next day, I submitted my resignation. A few days later, a woman named Eva Smith visited my home. She had just joined D&F Studios after graduating from college and was outraged by the commotion surrounding my resignation.
The truth is, Edgar stole my idea. With someone like that as the head of the planning and development department, even talented people won't be able to work. Stanley, will you fight with me?
Speaking of which, it was the time of year when applications for the Special Toy Award started. Edgar was probably desperate to win the grand prize this time. Nevertheless, this young woman, Eva, seemed quite proactive. Eva had a strong passion for toys, and since high school, she had aspired to work at D&F Studios. She loved dress-up dolls since she was a child, but she couldn't afford expensive dolls, leading to a sad childhood. She strongly wanted to provide affordable and cute dolls to children, so that kids from any household could enjoy them. That's why she was so interested in my project to offer Barnes dolls at a low price. Got it. Let's fight together. Tomorrow, I'm going to meet Megan. Would you like to come with me?
Yes, please let me accompany you. I'd love to hear what Miss Barnes thinks as well.
The next day, Eva and I visited Megan's workshop. Megan, dressed in work clothes, greeted us while wiping sweat from her forehead. The workshop was filled with various doll parts, and I swallowed the comment that anyone uncomfortable with glass-eyed dolls wouldn't be able to stay long. Eva was in awe of seeing the real Barnes dolls.
These works are amazing. Someone once said that Barnes dolls are like Buddhist statues. And it's true. They are divine, almost like angel statues.
Thank you, Eva. The origin of Barnes dolls lies in the Madonna statues in overseas churches.
I can see that. They really do look like the Virgin Mary. Seeing them in person, they are truly a cut above regular toys.
After showing us around the workshop, Megan led us to the reception room. After a short wait, Megan appeared, having changed from her work clothes into a vibrant dress. Her long black hair reached her waist, and with her large, dangling earrings and bangles, she looked every bit the unique artist. I explained to her how Eva had come to me. Megan frowned, and she expressed her anger towards Edgar.
He's such a despicable man, that Edgar. First, he forces my benefactor to resign and then tries to monopolize Barnes dolls. And now he's stealing ideas from young talents just to win an award.
Thus, Eva, Megan, and I teamed up to fight against Edgar. The information that Barnes dolls would be sold by D&F Studios had already been featured in various media. D&F Studios had set up a special page on their website, tracking the progress of the development. When that page was suddenly deleted, it caused a stir among the fans of Barnes dolls. Many of Megan Barnes' fans couldn't afford the dolls, so they were looking forward to obtaining them at a lower price through the corporate collaboration. However, Megan announced on her social media that her relationship with D&F Studios had ended. Recently, there have been sad incidents where creative works were distorted when they collaborated with large companies. Megan explained that she felt a great deal of anxiety about releasing her work under the name D&F Studios.
The reason I agreed in the first place was that there was someone who had made me famous at D&F Studios, and he was going to lead the project. But he was fired. I'm anxious about collaborating with such a company.
D&F Studios faced intense backlash. Within D&F Studios, word spread about how I was unjustly forced to resign, putting Edgar in a difficult position within the company. Moreover, Eva reported to the higher Upus that Edgar had stolen her idea. Eva's concept was for a portable doll that could serve as a charm for children. Normally, it was about 8 inches in size, but it could be folded to fit into a child's small pocket. Eva shared that she had been very tearful and lonely as a child. One day, when her mother fell ill, she had to stay at her aunt's house for a while. Her mother had given her a doll to keep her company in her absence, a doll she still cherishes. She explained how much that doll had comforted her during the days without her mother. However, the doll was a bit large to carry around, and she had always wished it could fit in her pocket to be with her. She had been making prototypes since her college days, and she had dated 3D data of her creations saved on her computer. With solid evidence, it was soon proven that Edgar had stolen Eva's idea. Edgar's project had already passed the second round of judging for the Special Toy Award and was expected to make it to the finals, but he was ordered by the company to withdraw. Hearing this, I was deeply impressed by Eva's talent. If it had made it to the finals, it would have been a matter of the judges' preferences, but the chances of winning the grand prize were high. It's a shame we can't resubmit it under your name, Eva.
I wasn't aiming for the award, so it's fine. More importantly, the project has gained attention within the company, and now there's talk of commercialization. That makes me happier.
You're talking about the affordable dolls for all children that you've always mentioned, right? Eva nodded happily. I recall the joy I felt when my first project was accepted and turned into a product. After all, the smiles of children are the ultimate reward in our line of work. There aren't many jobs as fulfilling as this one. I began to regret leaving the company. Megan then invited me to work at her workshop.
Stanley, your sculpting skills are outstanding. I've always made Barnes dolls on my own. But there are inevitably some limitations working alone. Could you help me with that?
It's a very generous offer, but wouldn't it be an issue for someone other than you to work on Barnes dolls? Indeed, it wouldn't be a problem if I worked on tasks like polishing parts or removing flash, similar to the apprentices. However, what Megan had in mind was for me to become a sculptor, creating the faces of the dolls. Megan's dolls were all girls, but she had a desire to create boy dolls as well. She was skilled at sculpting female faces, but found male faces quite challenging. She wanted me to fill in that gap. I was strongly attracted to Barnes' offer, but I couldn't make a decision. If Barnes dolls started to include boy dolls, it would become a significant topic. As the sculptor, I could expect substantial financial benefits. Barnes dolls were high-priced, with a recently released doll selling for $30,000. However, such expensive dolls could never be toys for children. They were more like works of art than toys. But I wanted to make toys, to see the smiles on the faces of the children who receive them. It's a generous offer, but that would bring me closer to being an artist. I want to create toys that children can pick up and enjoy. Megan eventually understood, and we promised that if I returned to the toy industry, we would create affordable, easy-to-get Barnes dolls together. The gravity of stealing someone else's idea led to Edgar being dismissed. Mark, who had sided with Edgar, lost his standing and eventually left the company. Thus, D&F Studios finally regained the comfortable atmosphere it once had. Moreover, the CEO personally came to my house, apologizing and asking me to return to the company. We promise you the position of head of the Planning and Development Department. With you, the Barnes doll project can succeed. Does that mean I can continue with the Barnes doll project? I heard it was stalled and the plans were scrapped. You will lead its revival. The board of directors has already approved it. I accepted the CEO's offer and decided to return to D&F Studios. The employees warmly welcomed me back. On the day I decided to quit, the 5 employees who ignored me were each relegated to less important positions. Their guilt may be less severe than Edgar and Mark's, but I no longer had the confidence to work with them. Thus, a new planning and development department was formed, consisting of 6 elite members, including me as the manager. Among the new faces was Eva. We worked tirelessly day and night to complete the stalled Barnes doll projects. To offer Barnes dolls at an affordable price, we had to start by reconsidering the materials. Typical dress-up dolls on the market were made of soft vinyl with hair rooted directly into the body. In contrast, Barnes dolls were made of fragile bisque, with wigs created separately and then attached. Using wigs might work for dolls intended for adult collectors, but children will want to take their dolls into the bath and enjoy cutting their hair. We cannot compromise on rooted hair. The glass eyes were also a distinctive feature of Barnes dolls, but they were costly and could easily become scary dolls. In the end, we decided to use rooted hair on soft vinyl heads and paint the eyes, enabling mass production. As a result of our development efforts, Barnes dolls were finally released by D&F Studios. Even before the launch, pre-orders flooded in, and we were overjoyed. At the CEO's suggestion, we submitted the dolls for the Special Toy Award and won the Grand Prix. Megan, Eva, and I attended the award ceremony, basking in the spotlight alongside the Barnes dolls. Photos of us were featured in various media, spreading our love for toys to many people. It would be a great joy if among the girls who played with the Barnes dolls we created, some grew up to pursue careers in creating new things. On the other hand, Edgar, who had left the company, hadn't changed at all. He leveraged his background as a manager at the major company D&F Studios to get a job at another toy company, but his habit of plagiarizing continued. He must have thought that if it wasn't famous in America, no one would notice, so he released a doll resembling a popular Indian anime character. However, in this internet age, such behavior was naive. The Indian anime company quickly filed a lawsuit, and the doll was discontinued shortly after its release. Edgar, who lost all credibility, was fired from the toy company and struggled to find another job. With a tarnished reputation, Edgar was left to survive in the underworld. He made a living by modifying existing anime girl figurines and selling them on flea market sites. He cleverly avoided copyright issues to scrape by. However, even this life didn't go smoothly for long. Despite posting new works on the flea market site daily, complaints from original fans piled up, and his membership was revoked. He continued his activities on another underground site, but his work became increasingly repetitive and lost popularity, leading to declining sales. Furthermore, it became known to the parents of Edgar's son's classmates that he was modifying existing figurines for adult men. His son was ridiculed as the kid whose dad sells weird dolls, and he was so shocked that he couldn't go to school. Angry, Edgar's wife left with their son and soon sent him divorce papers. Left alone, Edgar was now required to pay child support and alimony. Even selling the house wasn't enough, and all his savings went to his wife. Unable to find another job, he started selling his belongings on flea market sites to survive. But life became increasingly difficult. With no furniture or appliances left, Edgar moved into a small apartment and now lives by doing day labor jobs to get by. On the other hand, I returned to DNF Studios and am leading a fulfilling life as the head of the Planning and Development Department. Creating smiles on children's faces through my work is incredibly rewarding. My subordinates respect me sincerely, and we all share the same passion for our work. Many employees haven't forgotten the excitement of receiving toys as children, and as their manager, I hope they continue to hold on to that pure feeling. I cherish the happiness of having met the most solid bonds of my life with my colleagues. Eva is an exceptionally talented subordinate, helping me with various issues I don't notice. Someday, she will support the future of this company. The value of Barnes dolls created by Megan continues to rise. By releasing them through the General Toy Company, DNF Studios, the name became known even to those who were unaware of Barnes dolls. Some wealthy individuals are considering purchasing them, anticipating that their value will increase. The production of the long-awaited boy dolls is also progressing, and an exhibition at a museum is planned soon. Seeing Barnes dolls enter the field of art is deeply moving. Working with us, Megan has been exploring more durable and child-friendly materials. Her main consultant is Eva, and the two have become quite close both professionally and personally. I am confident that in the future, a doll co-developed by Eva and Megan will be submitted for the Special Toy Award, and they will surely win the Grand Prix.